Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Mavit Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So who wants to start?
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुषं ददामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेक्षिणी
Shri, you want to try?
नमोऽस्तु ते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दायतपत्रनेत्र येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतुहे नमः।
वसुदेवसुतं देवं तं च शानूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम् सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज्य मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यो मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः।
So we are actually entering into the shloka number 9. We have already finished already about, I would say, 10 of the values. We started with the shloka number 9 last time with Indriyarteshu Vairagyam. So today we'll actually cover Anahankaraha and Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So in shloka number 9, this is where we saw Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, which we did last week, was about indifference towards the objects of senses. So it is not as if we are not, we are told that we should not enjoy, okay? As in our own, the very first Kindle Life book that we saw, there was this one chapter which says, eat, but not let the world eat you. Enjoy, but let not the world enjoy you. Today we are living in a situation where more and more objects of senses are put in front of us. And if we are not careful, we can actually get completely, engulfed by all this. So that is what we did last time. Today we'll cover this Anahankara, and then Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. This whole thing, which is quite a big one here. So this is what we said last time with Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, which is actually Vairagyam means dispassion, but in a sense it means mastering the sense organs. So for us, all these 10 senses, Indriyas and Karmendriyas, which includes Indriyas and Karmendriyas, they've been given to us because we have come through so many births. In all these births, now we are in this particular birth where we are given the senses to sort of exhaust all our vasanas. But then what do we end up doing? On one hand, we are this kind of people who are told that, okay, you're the highest form of creation. You've been given all this. So just enjoy the world from based on previous vasanas. But then we're living in this technology world where more and more we're bombarded with these technologies, which is uh, because of this five sense organs, instead of kind of exhausting out, we are taking in more and more of them, right? So that is what this whole diagram is shown here. So Indriyarthi Shivairagyam is dispassion towards the sense objects. And what are those five gateways? This is the Shrotra, Tvak, Chakshur, Rasana, and Grana, the five sense organs through which we are actually interacting with the world, and we are asked to not develop an addiction. I don't think the word addiction was there before, but addiction is a new word which we think it is addiction to drugs and alcohol, and that is how we come across. But it can be addiction to simple cereals, cereals as in when TV came to India, I remember, initially it was beautiful with Ramayana and Mahabharat and all that. People, the t we started getting attracted to the TV. But soon we had so many different serials, and people got addicted to it. And this is because these serials, they can use many of our those five senses, right? On one hand, you are seeing it, but on the other hand, you are listening to all this music, and the music has been now developed in such a way that it can create even more emotions in our minds. So this is how we start to develop this addiction because of these sense organs. And in Vivek Chudamani, we saw last time, there are all these animals which can get captivated by only one of these sense organs. You can get captivated, but we as human beings, we have all these five sense organs, and all these five sense organs kind of create this real complex situation for us where we really don't know what to do. We are more and more attracted towards the world itself. So that is why we need to develop a sense of vairagya or dispassion. But when we think about what does this dispassion mean, is it really a suppression of the desire? Are we not supposed to enjoy? Are we not supposed to, go for concerts, see movies, all that? No, it is not. It is really not a suppression of the desire itself. It is actually where you are looking at these objects, right, which is in front of you, but you recognize the objects for what it is. Whether it's this movie or anything, you go there, you enjoy it for that moment, but we also recognize that that movie is not the permanent thing. You know, what if we go to a movie and somebody dies in the movie, and you carry that thought throughout the day? You come back home and you're not able to sleep because somebody in that movie passed away. That's it's meant to we recognize it's not a permanent thing, it's only a temporary. Now, yes, that is a movie, but then we say, okay, in life, how can I really have this? So we can use that example of that movie to see that even in life, all the relationships, all these objects which are there in front of us, at any moment in time, one should be able to give up and walk away from it. How long are these objects going to be with us? We know we came into this world with nothing, and we're going to go away with nothing. That is for sure. Now, why can't I just today even think about, recognize that all these objects in front of me, are really not going to have any effect? So that is at the level of objects. Now, let's come back to the second part, which is our relationships. Now, that's a tough one, right? We will say that, well, what is wrong with me having a relationship, being attached to all my relations who are in front of me, my own children, my parents, all of them. What's wrong with that? Well, again, the same thing applies. Like, just like how I'm going for a movie, I'm enjoying when I'm there. I'm not thinking about anything else. And I come back and I recognize that movie was a temporary thing. Here too, with my own relationships, I really spend every moment. I'm in the moment, I'm enjoying my time with them. But I also recognize that all this is again temporary. You know, that is what dispassion is. Dispassion is recognizing the objects, recognizing our relationships, recognizing the situations. You know, same thing. Like right now, as last time also I gave this example of a weather. Um, right now the weather is starting to get heat. Slowly it's heating up. I came to Chennai last night and I can feel the heat here. You know, and I think Suresh is in Andhra and he probably sees the same thing. It's becoming hot now. And but is that going to last? I mean, there's no point in complaining about the weather because you know that it's going to get even hotter actually. Not that it's going to get cold. I can, of course, run away to Michigan where it is still probably snowing, but that's not going to last. The point is to recognize all the objects, all our situations, all our relationships for what it is and where it is, and recognize that, Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, which is I'm not coloring it with my own likes and dislikes. It's actually my own uh, superimposition of what that object means to me, right? So, for example, let's take a phone itself. Right now, I think we have this I-17 phone or something. Until I recognized, until this phone was, or even let's take I-18 or I-20, it is not even made yet, but it is there in the store. And so long as I don't have it in hand, that doesn't bother me. The second it comes to me, now I get attached to the phone because of its beautiful features. And of course, Apple and other companies, that is their business on how to make it so attractive that it becomes in tune with what I want from the phone. Or sometimes they will also impose or bring about a new marketing technique in such a way that I get attracted to it, right? So only when it comes to me, then I develop this slowly an attraction and then it becomes an addiction, right? So I am actually superimposing my own likes on the phone and I'm getting attracted to it. So at the end of the day, if I know that I'm the one who's doing it, why can't I get out of it? Right? That is also in my hands. And that is what Vairagyam is. Vairagyam is not something which I'm suppressing a desire. I'm actually recognizing that the temporariness of it, the relative merit of something like this, and I'm actually working on that. So that is the point of it, where when we say, how can the mind be freed from this, is to clearly seeing the objects for what they are. So when I recognize them for what they are, then I slowly start to see that I don't have to be complete by having that object. So sometimes, we may think also, only if I have this particular object, my life will be complete. You know, it actually starts from our own birth itself, right? I mean, if we allow our mind to be dictated by society and everything, society will always tell us, oh, you're not complete if you do this, you know, all the way from our lives. I mean, this is why I think sometimes when I think about the life of Swami Tapovan and others who, even by the age 10, realized that there was nothing more that, he didn't have to, he has been born now, he has to take care of his parents. But other than that, there was nothing more he had to do. So he just left his home and he went all the way to the Himalayas. Um, so, but for many of us, we get told by the society that unless you do this, you're not complete. Unless you finish your education, unless you get married, unless you have children, you're not complete. So seeing myself as incomplete, unfulfilled, inadequate, insecure, what am I trying to do? I try to complete that life. I try to complete that life by getting into situations thinking that that will give me completion. And so that is how our life is, right? I just try to bring completeness into my life by pursuing all these desires of, getting an education, getting the best education, um, going to Harvard or IIT or anything and saying that that is what is going to make me complete. Then I try to acquire the best of things. So ultimately, my life, I spent only on these two things, which is artha and kama. So karma is, where I'm just fulfilling all my desires. It's not just simple eating or drinking or whatever, but getting the best of everything. That's how karma is. And artha is really stands for everything that gives me security. So what are the things that gives me security? It's starting with enough money and then enough power, enough influence in the society. If I'm a politician, I have to get more and more and more of this influence, right? And then, of course, if I'm in a company or something, I have to make sure I get to different positions. If I'm in the university, I have to get to better and better positions. All this, ultimately, our whole life uh, gain is really dictated by only these desires, artha and kama. So as a human being, there's actually no end at all for my this longing and struggle. I'm constantly working on all this so that I feel that only when I have all this, I'm complete, I'm fulfilled, I'm secure. So this is why we go through all this acquiring of objects. This indriyarteshu vairagyam, therefore, really is a value which is telling us to become free of this addictive desire to be complete. And if I can analyze it in that sense, then you can see how pertinent and down to earth this value is. It's all driven by my own desire to be complete. And I think that I'm not complete or fulfilled or secure if I don't have all these relationships, objects, situations, education, everything. Only then I'll be complete, you know. Um, so, a huge reminder for us on where I am today. And this is why I put, we tend to think that whatever I desire, what brings pleasure is what I need to go with, but we don't recognize that that same thing which gives me pleasure is subject to constant change. And again, if all of us who are here in this forum here, we know what it was which gave us pleasure when we were young, and we see what is giving us pleasure now. Can we actually analyze it? Can we actually look at it and recognize that there's only a change in my mind on what that pleasure I'm getting it. If I can observe, if I can reflect upon this, that thing which is giving me pleasure has been subject to a lot of changes. Like, for example, it could be the technology change that we said. For example, communication. There was a long time back, we were happy with communicating by face to face. And then it changed to uh, a phone, by using the phone. Then the phones went through a lot of changes. We had, you know, phones which were mounted, then it became the mobile phones. And then from phone, then we went into whatever, I'm just jumping forward too much, like into Zooms, right? All this faced through computer, internet, all this stuff. But ultimately, what is the communication hasn't changed. The communication which gave me pleasure, that has not changed at all. So if I can reflect upon this part of it, this topic of Indriyarteshu Vairagyam really makes sense here. So Vairagya is the state of mind which is brought about by pure understanding, not by self-denial or deprivation. So this is very clearly needs to be brought up. And we did some of these questions. So I don't know if any of you had a chance to reflect upon this before we go to this next thing of anahankaraha. Anything to add?
Hari Om.
Yes, Anand.
Yeah, thanks for explaining again the Vairagya, the the way. And we always go with Chaturvidha, right? Which is Chaturvidha Pala Purushartha.
Uh-huh.
So Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. So what's the approach in getting these four, right? I believe they go parallel.
They don't go parallel. Actually, I mean, it can go parallel also, especially for all of us who are still in this world. When I say still in this world, means we are using the world to dictate a lot of things. It can go parallel, but more or less, it is kind of a serial approach. Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha, or Dharma is the one. If I use Dharma as the guiding principle by which I'm acquiring Artha and Kama, then Moksha is for sure, right? Moksha is the ultimate goal. And to get to the ultimate goal of Moksha, I'm using Dharma as my guiding principle in how I'm exhausting my karma and how I'm again exhausting my karma in acquiring artha. And ultimately, dharma is the one which reminds me, like for example, in Swami Tejomananji, I just remember from my readings of the way he explains beautifully, how dharma itself comes from the word dhru, which means the existence, or not existence as such, but the isness. So, what is my dharma as a human being? My dharma ultimately is to protect everything which is below me. And dhru is, or it is the isness of things. Starting with what does dharma mean? Dharma means it is really isness. For example, he gives this example of sugar, and the dharma of sugar is sweetness. The dharma of anything for that matter. For example, even if you take the phone, what is the dharma of phone? Is to help us to communicate. So in that sense, dharma for us as human being is to protect. And of course, what is to protect? It's a whole lecture by itself. But so to answer very simply, sorry, I went a little bit on the tangent here with dharma, but your four purusharthas, yes, that is where we are today. And it can happen in parallel, but more or less it is a kind of a serial approach where I clearly understand the value of dharma in acquiring, the value of dharma in exhausting my desires, which ultimately leads to moksha.
Thanks, Sunitha.
Yeah. So Indriyarteshu Vairagyam is,
Hari Om.
yes, Meena.
So you're saying they're not going parallel and you have to follow one by one, step by step?
In the sense, see, are in the aspect of artha and kama, okay? As I said, artha is, the wealth, fame, name, power, influence, all that is artha. Artha is the one which we use to, as a kind of protecting what I have. And kama, desire is, gaining more and more, right? Desires are to gain a lot of these things. So uh, you can say karma probably is the first step, correct? Uh, in a normal world, when I'm born, I start to acquire all these things. So that is karma. So karma in that sense is the first step where I'm desiring a lot of things. Then artha is I'm protecting it. Okay, like I said, this whole aspect of influence or power, name, fame, all this is I'm protecting what I have. I mean, in chapter 3 or something, right? Krishna says, no, it's much later, probably 9 or 9, I think. He says, Krishna is saying that, you just focus on me. I will take care of your artha and kama. If you remember the shloka, So the point is, artha and kama. So kama is desire, where I'm getting a lot of things. Artha is sort of protection of everything. And so in and through this, if I use dharma as my principle, okay, this Purusharthas is a whole lecture by itself, which we can do. So, in some sense, you can use dharma as a way to get to, as a principle in how karma and artha is done. Alternatively, for a normal person who is, let's take somebody who doesn't even know what the Purusharthas are, right? So, what that person does, the person starts to just acquire and acquire and acquire. At some point, he recognizes that just acquiring of things is not enough. I have to start protecting it. So that's what I meant by in that sense. But even after protection, he recognizes that, this protection he's trying to do, it could be by proper means, can be by illegal means. So at some point, he recognizes that there is something called dharma. Okay. And
So,
dharma
yeah.
is a, yeah, so it's only by dharma that I can do better things. I can still be acquiring and doing this, but my focus is changing. It's almost like, day-to-day world, we say, don't use, we start using a lot of short steps, shortcuts to get what we want. But then we recognize by taking all these shortcuts, it's taking me nowhere. Then what do? I start to discipline myself. I discipline myself and I say, okay, let me start from the beginning. I do one step at a time in a proper manner, right? So that's what I mean by from indiscipline to discipline is, the level of progression. So Artha, Kama, I'm sorry, Kama, Artha, and then, your Dharma. And then finally, when I start doing by disciplined manner, my mind starts becoming more and more less agitated. I'm able to see things clearly. I'm able to take decisions clearly. So when I start doing that, then what happens is my purpose in life also starts becoming more and more clear. So when I do that, that's when I see what even moksha means. Otherwise, what is moksha? For most people, it is not clear. Moksha can become clear only when I start bringing the principle of dharma into my life. And even the principle of dharma is not something that is by force I can tell people that you have to be dharmic. It is something an individual has to recognize by themselves. So that is why I said it can be a parallel process. It can be a serial process also, based upon where we are in our own evolution. I can
Okay.
use the dharma to fulfill my desires. I can use dharma to protect, which is artha. But I can also get to dharma at a later time once I recognize. So that's why I think maybe in our Sanatana Dharma in Hinduism, we have these, different paths because each one of us, we are not the same.
Yes. So, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So, what you said is exactly correct. So, anything that we follow, it should be through a disciplined manner. Otherwise, say for instance, and also we cannot think of moksha unless we follow the steps from the beginning.
Yes.
Okay, that's one. And then when you refer to ninth chapter, did you in particular, did you refer to this 34th shloka, Man Mama Bhava Bhaktho Madhyaji Mam Namashkuru Mame Vaishyasi Yuktaivam Atmana Matparayanaga? Is that that
No,
shloka that you
no,
were
no, no,
saying?
no, no,
Ah,
not that one.
ah,
It is the meaning of the shloka is
mm,
Krishna is saying that,
mm,
today you're spending a lot of time in the world acquiring artha,
mhm,
protecting your artha
mm,
and acquiring, more and more through karma.
mm,
He's saying that you just surrender all that to me. I will take care of your karma and artha. Okay?
mhm.
You just focus your complete attention on me. So the shloka itself has the artha and kama. I'm sure if you do a simple Google search on artha kama, where does it appear in the shloka? You'll be able to see it. I
Oh.
don't have the book in front of me, but
Mhm.
that is the shloka. It actually says dharma artha in that shloka.
So this particular sloka, 34, what I read, Krishna is saying, like, you just fully surrender to me. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, yes. It
But can you tell me which sloka you referred in chapter 9, please?
yes, I will send it to you. I'll send a WhatsApp note on it because I don't have my Gita book right
Okay,
here.
okay, okay,
And
okay.
yeah, I'll definitely come back to you on that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hari Om.
Yes, Anant.
So one sloka, Sarvadharma Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Aham Tva Sarvapapebhyo Mokshayishyami.
Uh-huh.
So it says, again the surrender, right? You leave everything on me and then you surrender.
Mm-hmm.
So then, Bhagavan is saying he'll give the moksha.
Right. That is the ultimate shloka. That is true. I'm just putting in my phone itself and seeing which shloka is that. uh,
So basically, in every sloka, Lord Krishna says different ways, but ultimately it's the same thing. You surrender to me. I mean, he's saying in different ways, but ultimately,
correct.
just surrender to me, put everything to my feet, and then he'll take. That's what he's trying to say. And
Correct.
also, when you referred, Lord, Tobomayananda,
Swami
I will
Tejomayananda.
also, Tejomayananda, I will also add Ramana Maharishi.
Uh-huh.
He also, at the age of 10 or something, he left everything and then, he said, he was doing in
Correct,
Tiruvannamalai.
correct, correct. I was referring to Swami Tapovan actually in that.
Tapovan,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes.
Not the Tejamai, okay,
No, no,
Tapovan.
no.
I
Swami
just tried to recollect the
Yes.
Ramana Maharishi too.
Right, right. You're absolutely right. You see, they, uh, in terms of the relationships, right? So they did not get into a grahastha ashram or anything
Yes.
because they already recognized at that stage that uh, everything is temporary anyway for them. I mean, again, I have to be careful on how we say this in the sense we all are into grahastha ashram, and
Mm-hmm.
um, but they at the age of 10, or even in the case of Ramana Maharshi, even before, they already recognized uh, what their ultimate goal was, and they just wanted to run away from where they were at that time.
Mm-hmm.
In the case of Swami Tapovanam, he had that obligation towards his parents, which he wanted to finish it. And then he waited to do that. So he did not even get an education. I think he actually was in school, but then at some point he realized that what am I going to do with this education anyway? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So he gave that up.
Mm-hmm.
Ramana Maharishi also, he was probably going to school, but one day when he heard about Tiruvannamalai, he realized, okay, I have to be there. That's all that mattered to him, right?
Mm-hmm. And he was always saying, "Who am I? Who am I? Who am
Yes,
I?" Yeah. Thank you so much for, explaining that this brief and also giving lots of examples.
you're welcome. So, having explained so Indriya, so that's why this this value of Indriyarteshu Vairagyam, we have to be conscious of um, how I'm leading my life, how my daily life is going. Every day, this five sense organs, they are the gateways through which impressions are coming into my mind. How alert am I, and in allowing anything to come inside? You know, this five sense organs are meant to go only outside. In Kathopanishad, beautifully it explains, they are only meant as a gateway for outside. Anything which was already as an impression in my mind, I need to exhaust it out through this five sense organs. I cannot allow it to come inside anymore because I have to recognize, in fact, when we come to Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, we'll have a little more deeper discussion. Is this physical body which has been given to me today is meant only to exhaust all the previous desires, which is a huge baggage within myself. And that's what all this 10 indriyas, 10, which I said the karmendriyas, five karmendriyas and five jnanendriyas have been given, is only for that. Is only for everything to get outside, out of me. And so, indriyarteshu vairagyam, so that is why I need to have this value very important as I lead my life every day. But we are so bombarded with things. I mean, I don't know if you experience there so much, but in India, there is so much sometimes in terms of the fashions and the kind of saris or the kind of blouses. I'm just giving you from my own practical experience what I'm seeing here. I'm sure it is different in different ways, or again from the technologies, or even for all this things that are changing. Uh, so how do I develop it? How do I still keep focused on my goal? It is only by reminder from Bhagavad Gita about this, saying that, things haven't changed at all from whenever, man started living. So let's face it, there will always be all these new changes happening, but how can I continuously focus on my goal? So this leads to this next value, which is anahankaraha. So ahankara, I think all of you know, we know that it is this concept of our own individuality. Okay. So what do we mean by our individuality? It is this aspect of when I say, I'm talking right now, I'm enjoying my coffee or something, or I'm seeing. So that is where it's this very simple form of my identity, because I need to say something, I can't say drinking, smoking, or whatever, I can't say that. I have to say, I am doing this particular action. So I say, I'm having. So that is this aspect of ahankara. So, but then what we do is we use that identity to a much bigger thing. So much so that, okay, I'm enjoying it. And we kind of color it with something. We color that aspect of ahankara. I, Sunitha, who is so and so, is enjoying it. So I'm bringing that aspect of a self-importance into anything and everything I do. So that blows up that ahankara to a much larger extent. It gives a certain bigger sense of a self identity more than what it is. And we use that in anything and everything what we do. Like, for example, um, and this, I'm sure you have noticed this also a lot. And we also end up being that way. For example, you meet somebody for the first time, you're traveling by the train and somebody's sitting next to you and you become friends with them. You start to say, okay, no, I'm so and so, and you start talking to them, and the person also introduces themselves. The next thing you know is the person, is telling you about their children in the United States or whatever, telling, oh, yeah, I have a son here, I have a daughter there. And immediately what happens? We also, we are not even listening to them. We are immediately breaking into this aspect. Oh, yeah, yeah, even I have my son, in Boston, I have my daughter in Michigan. And then before the person can even say, we start telling about, okay, my son is doing this, my daughter is doing that. So you see how very quickly we break into such kind of habits. So this is just a very simple example that I'm saying about ahankara, how this ahankara manifests itself in bringing everything which is, part of us. So anahankara is, so we tend to kind of um self-proclaim or self-propagate ourselves. We are tending to blow our own trumpet. So anahankara is basically this absence of self-importance. Okay, it is, in order to understand that absence of self-importance, of course, we have to understand where this ahankara itself was, how was this born? How was this ahankar born itself? We start, this ahankara is born basically, first of all, is I have forgotten from where I came from. And this is why, again, when Meena brought up the example of Ramana Maharshi, Ramana Maharshi, whenever somebody would bring a problem to him, he would always say, go back from where you came. Okay. So go back to where you came is very powerful. So it means, I have to start reflecting, where did I really come from? You know, I've, so when we start to think about this thing of where I came from, then I will realize how this ahankar, this identity of mine, was really born. You know, uh, if you think about it, the ahankara was born because in some ways I was ignorant of where I came from. If I recognize that I came from that Atman or Brahman, okay, then I will not take on this identity. So, anahankaraha is the absence of this identity, or to recognize that this identity that I have right now is something that I'm using it for my transactional purposes. If I recognize it's only for transactional purposes, then I will not take on this permanent identity that I think of who I am. So, ahankaraha itself was basically born by when I converted the transactional identity into a permanent identity, and I started living myself as the permanent identity. So I need to go back to where I came from, which is again what Ramana Maharshi is saying. I need to go back and I need to recognize that that identity from where I came from is my true identity. And whatever identity I have today as Sunitha, she's living in India, she's working for CVV, and she's, playing these roles, all that is only temporary. So my ahankar should be a pure ahankar. It is not all this identity that I've taken. So this part of it needs to be very clear because it is that ignorance of where I came from, okay, has led to where I am today. So if I take on this permanent identity of who I think I am, then I'm living in a delusory world. It's an illusion that I have created for myself, and I'm living that illusory life. It's like, Shah Rukh Khan, for example, he plays the role of a beggar in a movie, and after the movie is over, if he still thinks he's a beggar, there's no way his wife is going to accept him, right? He has to go back to his identity as Shah Rukh Khan. So too for all of us, yes, for the sake of transaction, I need to take on a certain role because people identify me with only that role. So I have to perform that role for that particular situation to the best way possible. But in and through myself, I have to recognize that I am not that transactional identity. If I think that is who I am, then I'm living in ignorance. So this ignorance is not something to which I can proudly claim that. So I need to have that knowledge, which is allowing me to recognize that I am not this Sunitha. So this knowledge is very important, and this is discovered only when I remove that ignorance. Okay. And this knowledge is always there. But this ignorance, which is like a veil, has prevented me from understanding who I am. So knowledge is always there. Knowledge is not something that is created by me. But the second I know, I remove this veil. Again, this is I keep going back to saying that these are all attitudinal changes. So in my mind, I have to remove this attitude of who I am, and only then that knowledge will sink in, which is always there, about my true identity. So that is what, in a very deep sense, what anahankara really means. Okay. And I'm sure when you're listening to then what ahankara is, we said, anahankara is the lack of self-importance. So we need to be reminded of the very first value which we saw, which is amanitvam. Okay. So amanitvam we defined at that time, where we know we are somebody, but then we kind of inflate it, inflate it for the sake of getting more and more attention. So we are attention seekers in that regard, right? So where did that attention seeking come from? It's because of that self-importance that I gave myself, that self-importance to my identity, which is that ego. So in that sense, ahankara and manitvam are kind of closely related, which is kind of born from the same origin, which is this inflation of this ego, this identity. I need to recognize that my own identity, what I've taken up, is a transactional identity. And that transactional identity, sometimes because of my education, my status in life, my relationships, all that, is kind of inflating it a little more. But at the end of the day, I am that pure self, you know. So this part of it, I need to be constantly be reminded of it. And once I do that, I'll be able to really recognize what humility is and how I can be, not proud of who I am. So that is what anahankara means. So, and in a different sense, the opposite of sometimes, instead of inflating ourselves, sometimes we may also deflate ourselves. Especially in today's world, I find that our youngsters, they don't like being told that they're wrong, for example. I mean, when we were growing up, people would also sometimes, give you a slap or whatever to correct ourselves. But today, not only that, you cannot do something like a physical abuse or whatever, but even mentally, if you say even a small word to correct them, people feel so bad. They're like, oh my God, they go into depression. There's so many mental health issues which are coming up these days because we by mistake would have told something. So people tend to feel bad about it. So self-condemnation is also kind of the fallout of this ahankara, part of it. But if I recognize again in this regard that, at the end of the day, I'm that pure self. I may have committed a mistake because of lack of knowing how things work, but even that is temporary. Then I will not go through the self-condemnation. I'll recognize that it's only an impurity which needs to be, which can be cleaned up. And that cleanup is nothing but a simple thought in my process, which again, once I implement that, there's no more impurities. So that is really the attitude of an ahankara. So here is some reflection questions here. Uh, you know, like I said, ahankara means really inflating our thing. So, what was the basis at any point, if at any point we exhibited that arrogance or pride? So, what was the basis of that arrogance? Why did I behave arrogantly? So, any instance we can think of. I know it's hard to speak about personal instances, but maybe for the sake of this exercise, we can make up uh, a story or something like that. So, does anybody?
When we try to lose temper.
Yeah, yeah. Why did I? Maybe there was a time when I lost my temper because something didn't get done in a certain way, right? And there can be so many such instances. Even if you can take a work situation, for example,
Yes,
the boss
exactly.
gets really mad at somebody because the work wasn't done exactly how he or she thought it should be done, right?
And also, I have a question when you talked about ahankar. So you're saying for identity purpose, this to identify a person, this ahankara is okay. Is that what you're saying?
Necessary.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, it is absolutely. See, in a transactional world,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I mean, even if in a work situation, my boss comes and tells me, why didn't this get done? I can't just say that, oh, it was not done or that was not done. I have to say that, I didn't do it, correct? So there
Yeah.
has to be a locus,
Mm-hmm.
a point to which, so that is why this identity is very much needed, and that is why we are given a name, all this stuff as soon as we are born, right? So that is, we are living in this world of Maya. For that need, for that purpose, we need the identity.
Okay.
And along with that identity, yes, there is still nothing wrong with taking on the role of, I'm the CEO of the company, I need this. But the point is, the same CEO, the minute he goes home, he has to take that cloak or the coat of CEO out and hang it before he steps into his house. He's not a CEO in the house. But if he thinks he's still a CEO and expects all the people in his room, in his house to respect him that way, he's going to, he's going to be in trouble, right? So that is what anahankara is. Anahankara is absence of self-importance. I recognize that I have all this, but every role, everything is tied to a particular situation, to a particular area, to a particular position. I have to be very clear of what that means. Otherwise, and to recognize that my true identity is something far, far different. And all these roles I'm taken up only in this world of Maya, where in the world of Maya, I have to play these roles. So these are the kind of questions is, was the arrogance based on something you achieved all by yourself, or were they contributing factor? Yeah, this is the part that we didn't get into, but we have covered that aspect in some other values, is to truly recognize that importance that I'm giving to myself. Did I develop all that by ourselves, or were there other factors that were responsible for that? If I recognize that there are other factors, then I will not exhibit that arrogance, So that is the part that this question is really reflecting upon. If you had help, is your arrogance justified for anything? And finally, are you convinced is a value that you would like to develop within yourself? So this is just kind of reflective questions to think about. Anything more to add? So I know I thought we can do this other thing too, but again, the time is about, I know 7 minutes over, but we started 7 minutes over actually, and I don't want to delay this. This is really another, having talked about Indriyarteshu Vairagyam and Anahankaraha. So this next value is really about, we go through these different stages in life, which is birth, janma, and of course death, which is mrityu. And in between birth and death, sorry, in between birth and death, we go through other stages. Jara, which is old age. Then Vyadhi, which is disease of the body. I mean, all of us, let's face it and be honest, our body is going through a decay process, right? It is going through some form of disease, and we all will die of some disease. Let's face it, I'm being very blunt and honest here, right? Jara, janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha. So the idea is today we're living in this world thinking that we're going to live permanently. That is one. Second thing is we are spending so much amount of time after having been born doing a lot of things to a physical body, thinking that it's going to live forever. But this is a kind of a stark reminder that in each one of these is that there is a lot of dukkham, there's sorrow. So seeing that ability, dukkha dosha, that to see that sorrow in that, and this word anudarshanam, the word anu here, it means repetitive, repeatedly. Darshanam is darshar, means seeing. Anudarshanam, the ability to see the sorrow in each one of these stages that I'm going through. I know it sounds very depressing, actually, right? But it is not depressing, but it is actually a very strong reminder on how we need to see our whole life. So what is our life, which is all the way starting from birth to death? There is old age happening, there is some disease that is happening, and to be cognizant about it. So we'll analyze this a little more deeper next week, because I think there is really a lot to go through each one of that stage and to really understand. So
Hari Om.
yes,
Actually, this is not depressing at all. Period.
really, okay,
Not depressing at all. We are just trying to, I mean, and you're giving us some small tips for us to get into our mind, and totally not depressing. Don't even think about like
good, very good. No, but
that.
what I'm telling you, this 20 values to me is, and I'm apologize for taking it so slowly, but I really feel they are such great reminders.
We are enjoying it. Please, we want in detail, because the way that you're explaining, only then we can get at least a small percentage of it. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we'll do Janma Jara Vyadhi. If possible, we'll do even Asaktihi. As I said, as they're all reminders to where we are right now, but more importantly, how our life can be even better. And today we look at the life being better as more comforts, especially as we are growing older. You know, uh, just out of blue, I was just thinking that I saw one small ad in Facebook or something about how the son buys a beautiful bed for his mother. His mother is getting old, and she really appreciates the beautiful bed that of his son is bought. So it's good for the spine and back. So I was just thinking, as we're growing older, we are also looking for better, comfortable things. We are running away to comfort areas, all this. But more importantly is in our mind, I need to develop that attitude on recognizing that even this comfort which is there today, will go away. Who knows how our world is going to shape up? And again, I'm not being depressive, but I think last week, not last week, just 3 days ago, right? When this war with Iran started, I was thinking about it. I mean, where is this going to end? On one hand, life seems to be great with a lot of these developments, everything going on, even in India and everything, all this. But once a war starts, where is that going to end? If we don't get this knowledge right away, we will be in a better position to deal with huge changes which can potentially happen. Or through all these values, we are strengthening the world. See, my Acharya used to always say, you need only one Shankaracharya or very few Mahatmas to hold this world together. That much amount of sattva they bring, you know. So if we can distribute that sattva to more and more people, to that extent, the world will be better, right? So that is where all these values and all are great reminders to recognize where I am today. How can I develop that sattva to hold this world together? Peace is not in somebody else's, peace is not something that we can aim for. Peace is always there, and that peace needs to be strengthened. we're not aiming towards more peace. I mean, if Trump is thinking that by going against Iran or whatever, we are going to get more peace in US, no, it's not going to happen. Look how it is affecting the world, right? So these are kind of stark reminders for us to know that it's only this values, which is the knowledge, which is really going to keep us, more sattvic. Anyway, so we'll meet again next week. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shantihi. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. Purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.
Hari Om.
Hari
Thank you.
Om.
Thank you,
Hari Om.
Sunitha
Hari
ji.
Om.
Hari Om.
Thank you,
Thank
Sunitha
you
ji.
so much.